Hello again, everyone, and welcome to your weekly sports report. I'm the Phenom Anis Melham, and as always, I have
Sonny Dio, the big man.
and special guest. The grind is back.
Yeah, grand. Well, back again.
Welcome to the show. Great job last time, and we look forward to bantering a little bit more with you about some sports. You have tuned into our World Cup edition. And as we said before, we're going to be splitting them up into different segments. So thanks for tuning in. Let's start with the biggest news of the day. And they actually have been the biggest news of the World Cup, or the biggest news makers anyway. Germany eliminated for the first time in group play in the history of the World Cup. It was also the first time that that they've ever lost to an Asian team. And the first time that they've never progressed past the first time they never progressed past group play in their history.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So just to recap a little bit, it was a game that Germany dominated. Germany had 74% of the possession in the game. They directed 28 shots on goal. 6 actually hit the target. And these guys, they just could not score and ended up losing on counterattack just like they did against Mexico. Goals by Kim Young-Gwan in about the 92nd minute, which was initially ruled offside, and then through VAR. This thing has been great. It's really changed the balance of the game.
That's the second biggest story of the World Cup, I think.
And the Son Heung-min in the 96th minute, where it was a completely open net. They just found him on a break and tapped it in late to break German hearts and all their fans around the world. And then finally, to also mention another quirk, it is now the fourth time in the last 5 World Cups that the winner of the previous World Cup is getting knocked out in the group stage. This World Cup has been absolutely insane. Sonny, what the hell happened?
I don't know. First, I got to say this: like for Germany, their fans, this is like a travesty. This is like a world event that's just tragic for them. I don't know what happened. To me, they were the best team in the tournament. They're deeper than they were last time. I don't know how they weren't able to score. They got shut out 2 out of the 3 games. It's unreal to me. It's shocking.
This is like the New England Patriots not winning the AFC East.
Yeah, pretty much. And the group wasn't even that difficult if you look at it. It shouldn't have been, at least.
No, it was like a de facto group of death. It shouldn't have been, but it was. You know what? I am going to give you the credit for Sweden. You called them the giant killers, and they completely have been. And they bought themselves, a ticket against Switzerland instead of a ticket against Brazil.
Yeah.
By completely shit kicking the Mexicans.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Which was another surprise to me, because those first 2 games, Mexico looked like the strongest team in the group.
Yeah. But let's stick with Germany for a moment here. After the first game, it was doom and gloom. And then after the second game against Sweden, they broke Swedish hearts. Toni Kroos in stoppage time, scoring a beauty of a goal, one of the nicest goals of the World Cup.
Absolutely clutch too.
Completely flipped the script. Everybody was like, "Nope, this is it." They're playing South Korea. I mean, honestly, if somebody would have told you, Grind, before this game that the Germans were going to lose 2-0 to South Korea on 2 stoppage time goals in the second half, right? You'd slap him in the face. Like, you honestly would slap that guy in the face to say that.
Yeah, Germany was the favorites coming to the World Cup. I think just going into it as defending champs, they were too arrogant. They even though they dominated, they dominated the possession time, but I don't think they looked sharp. The strikers, Werner, the midfielders, they weren't on the same page, and it cost them. The counterattack wasn't strong.
And that's exactly how I feel. They didn't look sharp to me. That Sweden game, they pulled it out late. I thought that was going to be the switch, where we saw the Germans.
That they'd be on after that.
Not the Germans, the Germans. That's what I thought we were going to
see.
The
Mannschaft, the machine.
Exactly, but they just didn't look sharp. They look. It's just the lack of finishing and stuff. That, to me, that sharpness, something seemed off. Maybe those rumors we heard after the Mexico game that the locker room had some sort of dysfunction between the younger players and the older. Maybe it's true because it just didn't look sharp to me.
We judged them by their reputation. We thought, okay, they just snuck by Sweden, and they were going to dominate Korea. But this is a World Cup. This is the biggest stage. You have to show up to the games.
And especially in this World Cup,
Yeah.
with the number of surprises that we've seen, that we should have expected the unexpected, but instead we expected the expected
Yeah.
and ended up getting the unexpected, which
like
is absolutely
It's like
phenomenal.
an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It just keeps twist after twist,
Twist
after
after twist, yeah.
Nothing's how it's supposed to be, it seems.
Now, this just to go back a little bit more about possible shift in the locker room or some dysfunction. After the second game, or going into the second game rather, Joachim Löw took Sami Khedira and Mesut Ozil out of the lineup, and they were replaced with younger players. And the Germans won. Now, barely,
Yeah.
but they won. In this game, I think Ozil was back. And, I don't want to blame any particular individual player. I mean, I think Neuer had a terrible tournament. So,
He did.
that's another one where
And
we
that was
expected
very-
big things out of him.
It was very questionable putting him in after an 8-month layoff too. When you have Ter Stegen, who's a capable goalie, it was questionable. And if you look at it, because of that, essentially adding Neuer after 8 months, they left Leroy Sané off the squad, and his pace, his attack probably
They
would
missed
help.
it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
probably
they
would
definitely
help.
missed
Yeah.
his speed. They needed his pace.
Going off that 8-month layoff, I think they had a lot of players that just weren't in form going into the World Cup. They didn't have that right mix of youth and experience. They were inconsistent. They had times where they would dominate possessions, but on turnovers, they would just let guys go in and make them pay.
And they actually didn't score a clean-cut goal in this tournament. They scored a goal off a set piece, the Cruz goal for
Yeah.
the winner, and the other one went off the guy's knee. Like it just was a deflection off the knee.
Right.
There wasn't a clean-cut goal. It
There
just,
there
No
wasn't
goals scored in the first
it
and
just
third
was very
game.
odd.
There
It
wasn't a
wasn't
lot
the
of-
Germany that we're
There
used
wasn't
to.
a lot of creativity in that German attack. It was I don't think the
No, the
attack
flair
fit-
was gone.
Yeah, the attack didn't fit the scheme.
I feel it's kind of like what we said. I think they kind of just expected it. Like we said, switch. I thought they kind of played like that too. Like, oh, it'll just come, but it didn't.
Well, I mean, it's hard to sit there and think it wouldn't come. I mean, at the end of the day, you expected Germany to score. As the game went on, you're like, they're going to score. They're going to score. I mean, 28 shots directed on goal, 6 on target.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
as much as I want to say a lot of what you guys are saying is right, but sometimes you got to get some luck. You know, we call it puck luck in hockey. I don't know what the term in soccer is, but I mean, at the end of the day, they never got any bounces.
I agree.
They've got no bounces.
They didn't really get any bounces. The young guy, the guy I picked to win the Golden Boot, Timo Werner, he struggled. I picked Germany to win the World Cup. They all struggled. I think I picked the goalie to win the.
Yeah,
Golden Glove.
you did.
Except for Ronaldo, all across the board, I picked Germans.
The big man curse.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's got a few other things right. So, but you know what? Here's a lot of people. As soon as the Germans were eliminated, were calling for Joachim Löw to be fired, and I think he's already been extended anyway through 2020. So you're probably going to see him at least for one more tournament, unless they decide to sever ties and get somebody else in. I think public pressure will probably determine what happens. But I mean, if you're a fan of Die Mannschaft, I mean, just remember this is prior to the World Cup, so before the friendlies and all the tune-ups to this tournament. I looked up Joachim Löw's record with the German national team, and through 160 games, his record has 106 wins, 30 draws, 24 losses, 388 goals for to 148 goals against. This guy has won over 66% of his games since he took over the German national squad. In 2008, which was the first major tournament, he took over in 2006 after the World Cup in Germany. But his first major tournament was Euro 2008, where they finished second. They lost to Spain there. The World Cup in 2010, they came in third. In the Euro 2012, they lost in the semis. In 2014 World Cup, of course, they won. 2016 Euro, again lost in the semis, and in 2017 the Confederations Cup they won. So I mean he's won 2 major tournaments, including the big one, and has come in either made it to the semis or lost in the final in every other major tournament that this guy's had. I mean he's a freaking winner.
Yeah.
As a coach, I mean, there's something to be said about, but he's got Germany. Yes, but he's lived up to expectations.
Oh, more than it.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to do this well for this long with an ever-changing lineup. You know what I mean? For over 12 years. So, I mean, say what you want about him. He's a hell of a winning coach. He's a great coach.
He's been a legendary coach, if you want to be accurate with it. He has. Like, how many coaches had that success if you look at for that long of a span? It was Germany. Like, it's just going to be the public pressure. It's just how it is.
Okay, so do you fire him, Sonny? If you get to make that call, do you tell Joachim Löw tomorrow, listen, great run, thank you for all you've done for Germany, now get the fuck out of here?
I don't think you could fire him. I think what you said about mutually agreeing, I think Joachim Löw is smart enough to know what's going to happen. I think both sides will sever ties. But you can't fire him. No, I don't think you can.
Do you guys think that maybe Germany does need a fresh face there? Like, they're kind of transitioning into a new players from the older German players. Do you think maybe somebody else needs to come in? Looking at the players' perspective.
Honestly, I think that yes. I think that with the team transitioning to a younger generation, you need a new voice. This guy has been the coach for over a decade. It's been 12 years. It's been an incredible run. Listen, you know what, Joachim Löw? Go be Bayern Munich's coach. Go to a team in the Premier League. Go to La Liga. Go somewhere. The Bundesliga, whatever. Go coach a club team for a while. Get the hell out of the national stage, the international stage. I mean, and go be a club coach and make money.
For me, honestly, I think he's going to leave after this tournament regardless. I think he's smart enough to realize it's been a long stretch, that it's time for a change. And that's how soccer is.
That's how any sport is.
And
really.
with this perspective, you think what else do I have to do to
win a Euro?
Yeah.
He could have won a Euro. I mean, he came close a couple of times.
They've been dominant for so long, but I guess now it changes things because now they lost in the group stage. He probably there's fire. He wants to prove himself. He wants to bring Germany back to where they were. I think now maybe his mentality has changed prior to what it was before the World Cup started.
It could, and I think maybe they take time and just think about it, just digest it, think about it, and decide what do we do next. I think that's probably the best move, and go from there. I don't see Germany making a quick get out of here. I mean, it's possible. There's always a knee-jerk reaction that sometimes people have, and it might be the case. But I mean, literally before this game, they were talking about, well, he's been extended. There's been they knew the situation. They knew that they probably could have. There's a possibility that they'd lose the game and get embarrassed. You know what I mean? But yet they were still talking extension anyway. So, you know what? Who knows? I guess we'll just sort of have to see in Germany whether or not they'll come back. I expect them to come back really strong in 2020 in the Euro.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, they're always a threat anyway. Yeah. Think about it this way: Italy didn't even make this World Cup. You know what I mean? And again, the champions curse. It's starting to become a real thing. Yeah. It's starting to become real thing.
I believe it now for sure.
France won 98. They didn't even do anything in 02. They lost in the group stage, and then in 2010, the Italians lost in the group stage. In 14, the Spanish lost in the group stage, and now in 18, Germany
I feel like this
lost
was
in
the
the group
strongest
stage.
team out of those. I felt like this couldn't happen. I thought the German team was just so strong, so loaded that it just wouldn't happen.
I thought this was more shocking than Spain last World Cup.
I agree.
Spain was a bit older. They were at the end of their run. This is Germany, one of the favorites to win the World Cup. A young team. They just come and just.
Yeah, it almost
Not
felt like that
comparison, they
Spanish
stacked the bet.
team in 2014 was just running out of steam
Yeah.
after winning 3 major tournaments in a row:
Yeah.
Euro '08, Euro the World Cup in 2010, and Euro 2012. It just felt like maybe they were just running out of steam. So let's turn to the other two teams in the group. And Sweden just laid a beat down on Mexico 3-0 with goals by Ludwig Augustinen. I don't know. I'm not even going to try. I think it's Augustinsson on the 50th minute. Andreas Granqvist with a penalty on the 62nd minute. And then Edson Alvarez with an own goal on the 74th minute to seal the hopes of the Mexicans of winning the group. Mexico comes in second. They get a ticket to play Brazil.
Still,
And the Swedes get to play Switzerland. What happened to Mexico? We were praising them for 2 games straight.
straight up, they reverted to their old style of how they played. They went back to what the Mexico that we've seen in every other tournament that underachieves, that doesn't make it past the round of 16. And that's what, going into this game, what I thought, what a lot of people thought, is this is a completely different team.
Yeah.
They're not reverting back to the style of how they played and just, in a way, failed in most of the tournaments we've seen. But they went back to that today. And honestly, man, Sweden just is not scared of anybody. These motherfuckers have swagger. They don't care who they are playing. Clearly, they're ballers, man.
Clearly.
But when you watch the game, Sweden looked like they knew what was on the line here. Well, Mexico, they cruised in, and they thought they had the group.
Sweden played every game like that.
Yeah.
It seems like every game is something's on the line for Sweden.
Sweden almost pulled off the upset, of course, against Germany.
They almost knocked them out.
They almost
on
knocked them out
Saturday,
themselves. Yeah, the other day.
Mexico, they were not guaranteed to move to the elimination round.
Yeah, and at one point, that's what it looked like was going to happen.
They played
Yeah.
like they were just in the bottom of the group, just going through the
They looked like they
motions.
were playing for the tie most of the game because that's all they needed.
And that's the thing with CONCACAF in general. Teams in CONCACAF end up playing with that mentality to salvage, not attack. That's what I mean by reverting. They went back to let's salvage the draw. But the Swedes came out like, no, we're about to smack the shit out of you. So it was just asking for it.
You think it's sort of a I don't know, maybe they develop it over the group elimination, the qualification rather into the World Cup. They sort of develop this idea of, hey, our back is against the wall.
Yeah.
We're playing a tough team here. We're playing a tough team there. There's all these giants of football everywhere, and then you basically have Mexico that owns CONCACAF.
They already know they're going to make it through. And you look at Sweden, right? They had to knock out Netherlands. They had to knock out Italy already. For them, they've had the tough matchups. For CONCACAF, it's kind of like a walkthrough for them. It has been.
It's been a walk. Yeah, it's been a cakewalk for the Mexicans forever. I mean, no one can really pose a big threat to Mexico. But I think for Mexico, the attitude is we are on that level, though.
Exactly.
And they just can't ever prove it. Like I feel like they were like Spain prior to 2008.
Yeah.
Where
they believe in their minds they're powerhouses.
Right.
But the thing is with Mexico, they're kind of just stuck in one little idea where they dominate CONCACAF, they go to the World Cup, they'll get out of the group stage, but that's all they do.
It's been 4 or 5 World Cups in a row. Where
so
the 5th game, that's what this is. This World Cup was the 5th game. We want to get to that quarterfinal game. But, Mexico has been participating in CONMEBOL, in Copa Americas and stuff, because they want that harder competition. So they've been playing against South America.
It's something, though, because the only 2 times they've advanced past the round of 16 is when the tournament was in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, again, home teams. Look at Russia.
Yeah.
Russia got out of the group stage. No one expected
And
that,
they
except
look
for the fact
pretty
that they're
good
at home.
against bad competition, but they look pretty good. Yeah.
Before I shift groups though and start going off, Sweden gets to play Switzerland in the next round. I mean, that game could go either way, but let's say Sweden continues this run that they've been on. They're going to run into eventually in the quarterfinal, maybe England,
England
or Belgium. There's a really good shot of either of those teams making it there. I guess we'll have to talk about it if and when they can make it there.
Sweden has my heart now, man. You just want them to keep winning.
They're
like that ragtag bunch that just came to this tournament and was like, fuck
the little team that
yeah.
could. Well, there's always a Cinderella, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, but here's the thing about Sweden. They're not so much a Cinderella, right? Like they're a decent team. And they're one of those teams where it's like, yeah, they can do it. They can go up against anybody and give anybody a run for their money.
And they're a pretty regular team in Euro and World Cup. When they Henrik Larsson, Ibrahimovic, they were regulars. They have been regular most of the time. It's just been the last few that they haven't. But
well, again, they're running with a new team, just like a lot of other.
It's completely different.
Just like a lot of other clubs are or squads are in this one. As for Mexico, they have a date set with Brazil. Grind. Do they have a chance, or is the fifth game not happening this time?
I don't think it's happening. You see with Brazil, I think they've cruised through their group, but they haven't played that great. They haven't played that bad. But Neymar has struggled, so I think as the tournament goes on, Neymar's going to get better and better. And I think this is where Brazil turns.
I think he's just going to get better at bitching, though.
This is where they're going to turn it up, and they know what's at stake, and they're just going to attack them. I think where Mexico has a chance is that Brazil's defense hasn't been that good. They can maybe sneak through them, find some holes, but at the end of the day, I think Brazil moves on.
On the strength of their name and some of their great players.
Coutinho's been great this tournament.
I don't think Brazil's even put their foot down yet, though. I don't
think so either.
So I think we're going to see it. I think this loss for Mexico is going to affect them mentally because they didn't look good at all, man. They didn't look like the team we see in the first two games, and they have a history of failing at this point. I think Brazil is just going to cruise through that.
Time to go for Brazil. It's now or never.
Yeah, I think they'll cruise.
I want to keep the faith in the Mexicans just because I hate Brazil, and I'm going to be completely honest with that.
Yeah, I hate Brazil too, to be honest.
I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Neymar's a bitch. I like the other players on the team, right? But this guy's a ballerina, man.
Do we know the seriousness of the Marcelo injury? Or
no, not yet. Not yet. That could affect them going forward. But Brazil's deep.
Yeah.
Since we're swearing at players, can I swear one real quickly? Fuck you too, Coutinho, for leaving Liverpool. Punk.
Anyway, yeah, I knew you were going to come back with that one. But Firmino plays on Brazil, and Firmino is pretty sick, man.
Yeah.
So there is that. Besides that, though, I mean, you're right. Brazil. I mean, they looked weak a little bit against. They looked a little weak against Switzerland. And I didn't like them at all in the Costa Rica game. I mean, I understand Navas is a great goalkeeper, and he held down the fort until stoppage time in the second half. But I mean, I actually don't really see it. I mean, I look. I'm not saying that Brazil won't beat Mexico. I really want Mexico to win that. You know what I mean? But I have a hard time seeing Brazil really getting deep into this tournament. I think when they start to face, let's say for example, Belgium wins the group, and then Belgium plays Brazil in the quarterfinal. I could see Belgium beating Brazil. And it's completely possible. Or even if they make it that far, I mean, you could see France or I don't think Argentina, and I doubt they're going to make it that far. But
very tough side of the bracket.
Yeah, they're in the bracket of death, basically.
So I agree. When I said cruise, I mean they're going to cruise past Mexico. It's as like the aura they had entering the tournament isn't there anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah,
they can be beat. It's a wide open tournament. In my
opinion.
It is.
It is. Paulinho scoring for Brazil in the 36th minute and Thiago Silva in the 68th. Serbia didn't really look like much of a threat. They had a couple of good chances. I think his name is Matić. Yeah. He had a couple of good. He had a couple of good headers. A couple of good chances for Serbia, but I mean they didn't really look like they could stack up against the more skilled Brazilians.
And even the end of the game where they lost against Switzerland in the 90th minute or whatever it was on the counterattack, it was because of that. They were pressing to try to get that win instead of the draw because they were playing like they knew they couldn't beat Brazil.
Right.
So that's why the Switzerland game ended up like it did too.
Switzerland.
Going back to that Belgium-Brazil matchup that could happen, I think Belgium definitely can win, and they've looked probably one of the best teams so far this tournament, Uruguay and Croatia. Belgium gives them a lot of threats there. They have superstars at every level.
Very much so, but we'll have to see what happens to Romelu Lukaku,
that's
how long he's going to be out for, because he's probably not playing against England tomorrow.
Well, I wouldn't try to. If I'm either of those teams, I'd prefer to finish second in that group.
Regardless, regardless.
I think
but
both
still,
teams are going to play lose tomorrow.
Both teams rest all their good players. Just try to see what you can do to lose. Speaking of the last game that occurred today, Switzerland versus Costa Rica ended in a 2-2 draw, and this was a back and forth game. Zemaili scored on in the 31st minute. Kendall Waston came back. I think he's a Vancouver Whitecap. Waston and scored in the 56th minute. And then Josip Dermich in the 88th minute. And then Jan Sommer with an own goal. And that was the one where that one was like such bad luck. I think the Costa Rican kicked it. It hit the crossbar and then just got knocked in off of Switzerland's own goalie and just went into the net. So it was an own goal, but I mean,
for a 2-2 game, the goalies played pretty great. As the one where.
But so with this being the case, is Costa Rica going forward? Are they a team to be reckoned with now that they've tied? They almost tied against Brazil. They tied against Switzerland. Is this a team that going forward can give people trouble? Should people take these guys lightly? Going forward into further tournaments.
Clearly can't take anybody lightly, but no, they're getting older. Like this is the same team last tournament that made the quarterfinal. All those guys have gotten older. Even Keylor Navas, who is their best player,
right? He's
I think 33 or something like that now too, right? So they're getting older. I don't think so.
So this was just their best generation. That's what you're saying.
Pretty much it. I think it's coming to an end.
Maybe they have one more.
I don't even think so. I don't think they'll make the next World Cup. To be honest, if I gave my opinion right now, I don't think they will. They're all getting older.
So I'll go back to Group A, and I'm not going to talk about Saudi Arabia, Egypt because that was useless. Uruguay defeats Russia 3-0 back on Monday, and Uruguay looked like a team that can go deep. They're facing Portugal next, and they look like a team that can do a lot of damage here. Russia looked great in their first two games, but as soon as they hit a team with any skill, they got rocked, and it doesn't bode well for them to be playing Spain next. I think it's the end of the road for Russia.
I agree. They look good against a lower level of competition,
right,
which is easy to do. But when it stepped up, they were completely out of sorts. Like they were the turnovers, it was just brutal soccer. But Uruguay, man, I picked Portugal to finish third in this tournament. I think Uruguay is going to win that game. They're hitting their stride at the right time. They haven't letting it go. I understand Saudi Arabia and Egypt are weaker, but they haven't allowed a goal in the whole tournament. Yeah. Defensively, they look very strong. Now they've got their strikers going too.
Yeah,
so I think it's a dangerous combination.
Suarez, Cavani, and that defense. I don't know what Portugal's going to be able to do. It's going to be Ronaldo or nothing, in my opinion.
Well, that's exactly it. Ronaldo has to have a great game, I think, for them to win.
Uruguay moves on too.
Suarez scores in the 10th minute. Denis Cheryshev scores an own goal in the 23rd minute, and then Cavani, as you mentioned, scored in the 90th minute there to give Uruguay a 3-0 win over Russia. So as you guys mentioned, we all agree that probably Spain will end the World Cup dreams for the hosts, and on the other side, you guys both think Portugal is going to go down to the attack of Suarez and Cavani and the Uruguayans.
Part of it was just I did not like how they looked against. They didn't look bad against Morocco, but they didn't look great in the Iran game. They didn't look very good either.
Yeah, but Spain didn't look very good.
That's true. But
You
Spain, I think the competition is a lot easier that they have to face. Russia and Uruguay, there's a big difference. That's why I'll still go with Spain in that game. But going forward, if they have to play a Croatia, even in Denmark, if Denmark somehow gets past Croatia, it's not going to be easy. Denmark is going to be tough competition for Croatia as well.
I think we've learned that nobody's easy really
there's
anymore.
no such thing
but
as easy anymore, clearly.
shifting gears into the matches that happened on the 26th of June, Peru defeated Australia and kicked them out of the World Cup 2-0 with goals by Carrillo and Guerrero in the 18th and 50th minute. That's basically it for the Australians and probably for Cahill as well. Now, the thing is, Australia had a puncher's chance, but at the end of the day, the bigger game that happened that day was the only 0-0 game of this entire World Cup so far. France and Denmark, who played for a tie.
Yeah.
Neither of these teams really came to play. They didn't care.
It was pretty obvious they both knew what they needed to get through it. They played that way. It wasn't a very exciting game. They didn't really do much. It was just, let's get the draw and qualify.
It's a formality, basically.
France didn't even come out with their best squad.
No, they didn't care. They rested everybody.
Yeah.
They knew they're in already.
Yeah.
Just go and get the tie and
Yeah,
you know.
they knew Ty put them on top of the group. They were.
That's it.
They were settled.
They were satisfied with that result. But then obviously it was the other side where things got crazy. Nigeria versus Argentina. Obviously the winner of that game determined who moved on to play France. Argentina coming out 2-1. Messi coming out, scoring on the 14th minute. And then Victor Moses on the penalty in the 51st minute drew Nigeria level. And then Rojo in the 86th minute. There's something to be said in this World Cup too. I mean, yes, it set the record for penalties. Yes, it set the record for most games with own goals. And yes, it set the record for most games without a 0-0 draw. You know, but is it setting the record for most late goals too?
I was just about to say, when I was like watching or paying attention to that Germany game, I kept refreshing, just seeing. I expected Germany to score late because I'm like, this is the tournament where late goals are happening. I thought they would, but it seems that way.
Are teams just breaking down under pressure, or what's going on here?
I don't know what it is, man. They're just getting
It's just drama.
It's just very dramatic.
90th minute penalty
I mean,
kicks.
Maradona having a heart attack and out of body experiences during the game.
What about his?
When cocaine and heroin are legal in the stadium, something's gonna happen.
Yeah, did you see? His,
Yeah, Maradona is
did you
gonna
see him
need
give
to
the
get the
finger when they
paramedics.
scored the goal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually wanted to bring that up because I remember the 3-0 victory by Croatia over Argentina. The Argentines started whining. You know, they started being little assholes running around the field.
Tantrums.
Yeah, they threw temper tantrums. I remember Messi kicked one of the Croatians at one point when he tried to help him up. They wanted to shake hands at the end of the game, and a lot of the Argentinians left, and they were bitching left and right. I mean, you know, I felt they were classless after that game.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, to be fully honest with you, I think Nigeria deserved a better result. Argentina was better. You know what I mean? But I just you know, the heart that the Nigerians played with. It's sad that they have to go out early, and you know, and the thing is, you know, the Argentines got so happy with this victory, but it's kind of hollow. You're gonna play France, and in my opinion, they're gonna get destroyed.
I agree. They scraped by. They didn't dominate the game either.
It's like Germany, right? Like
they scraped by. There's still a lot of trouble on that team. They still haven't looked that good. I wouldn't get very excited about either. I think France will take care of them.
You look at Argentina, and they're a big favorite to win the World Cup, 8-1, 10-1, but then just scraping by, coming up second in the group, and they're acting like they've
They got through the group with 4 points.
Yeah, like there's not impressive at all.
A group that they were supposed to win.
Yeah.
They just didn't look that good.
Yeah.
And
I mean, with 9 points was obviously like that was my expectation out of this Argentine team. And this 7 points, I would have been like, yeah, Croatia. I remember we had that little discussion about Argentina, Croatia last time. You said you felt that Croatia was going to win. I thought, there's a good chance that after the draw with Iceland that the Argentines would come out firing with their attack.
Yeah.
But their attack has been, it's been pop gun. They've done nothing.
Their whole team hasn't looked very good. They don't look fluid. They don't look comfortable. It just doesn't look right.
So how
We
much
talked
of this
about
is
Germany not being sharp?
This is beyond sharp.
Argentina
This is
dull
just dull. That's a great way to put it. Dull. They look dull.
Now, there's been a lot of talk that in this third game, the players took over. That after the 3-0 loss, that the players decided that Jorge Sampaoli needed to be fired, and this guy needed to be fired like right then and there during the tournament, and he had to go, and that the players have taken over. I didn't blame Sampaoli for Messi missing penalty kicks. I didn't blame him that for Caballero giving the ball away, in the second game on that terrible giveaway that led to the first goal against Croatia.
Yeah.
Higuain really not showing up. I don't blame the coach.
Higuain in
I
World
think he
Cups,
deserves
man.
some blame there. Where he's not.
I think-
These players, they're not.
Clearly,
suddenly become
there's
shitty.
mismanagement with the players. Clearly, there's a disconnect because even leading up to the tournament, it wasn't a very happy feeling with the players and the manager. But speaking of Higuain, that guy when he enters the World Cup, he's completely different than what he is in Juventus.
Oh yeah, he
He's
disappears.
a killer around the net with Juventus.
Yeah.
In the World Cup, it's like he's scared.
Yeah.
Like that miss he had yesterday, wide open, right where he should be burying him, he just booted it over the net. It was like, what the hell's going on?
I mean, if
man?
you're an Argentinian fan, it almost makes you long for the days of Gabriel Batistuta. That guy, you knew Argentina wasn't skilled enough to win when he was the star, but he showed up. You know what I mean?
And he was a striker.
Yeah,
in the
he
sense
was.
That if he got an opportunity, he was going to score.
He was going to bury it.
Tevez.
Those teams were great. I enjoyed watching those Argentinian teams, but like this one, it's like the quality is there, the skill level is there, but the minute they throw that Argentine jersey on, they play their worst games.
But even Sergio Aguero hasn't been playing well. It's just the last World Cup he wasn't that great either. It's just you look at their team on paper and you say, okay, that's a lot of fucking talent.
Look how many stars we just named.
Yeah, but once you're right. Once they put that jersey on, it's like Messi and then them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they just get caught watching Messi.
I mean, even Messi, before this goal, he had gone over 6 World Cup games without scoring. He hadn't really led the team, and I understand that he won the MVP in the last World Cup. I realize that, but even in that game, he didn't take over, and he hasn't taken over any of these games, the way that Ronaldo has. And I don't want to get into that debate, but I'm just saying,
honestly,
other guys can show up to these tournaments regardless of who their team is, and they can still shine, And I haven't seen enough out of Messi.
And that's something when we're talking about Ronaldo and Messi, they both came in with the same amount of pressure.
Yeah,
Ronaldo seems like he's enjoying it, and Messi seems like he's being consumed by it.
but it's not even just Ronaldo. Harry Kane will have a lot of pressure on him.
He
He's
probably was one of the
popped
players
home
that
5
most-
goals so
Yeah,
far.
yeah.
You have Ronaldo with like 4, Harry Kane with 5. You have Lukaku has like 2, Diego Costa. Every striker on the big teams, they're contributing.
Well, they're stars. Yeah,
then
they've contributed.
In this group, Luka Modric, he's the centerpiece
Absolutely.
of that team, and he has looked like it.
Absolutely. I mean, let's move to Croatia and Iceland. Nigeria needed a draw to get through. They didn't get it. They lost at the very end. It was a heartbreaker for them. Iceland needed basically a win.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was tough to see them getting one against Croatia, But Croatia, once again, they showed up. Badeli in the 53rd minute. Sigurdsson with a penalty kick goal for Iceland in the 76th minute. And then Perisic, I guess, in the 90th minute, scores for Croatia. They win this group. Croatia is moving on. I mean, how about them Croatians?
Dude, they look good. They look like one of the best teams in the tournament, and they're positioned in a pretty decent bracket. Like, they're going to have to play Spain. Spain doesn't look that strong.
Well, you're talking quarterfinal. Let's back up.
They got it. Okay, Denmark. Actually, Denmark will be a tough game.
They have Denmark.
Denmark is not a slouch. Denmark will be a tough game. I do see Croatia getting through that. I think Spain obviously will get through Russia. I'm ready to make another bold prediction here. I think Croatia gets to the World Cup.
Yeah, they were one of my...
the final.
Yeah.
They get to the final.
They were one of my, I guess you can say sleepers, but coming into the tournament, I think they're going deep. Either semis or a World Cup final for me.
It's really good. They have an opportunity because they're in the weaker bracket.
They are loaded.
Yeah.
Modric, Rakitic, Mandzukic, everywhere they got stars. They're going
and they play well.
Yeah.
And
these guys,
they look like a team.
They do.
They look so good together. They play a team. They all look like they want the other person to be successful.
And
it's just
they weren't in a slouch of a group here.
No, they weren't.
Argentina,
Nigeria is very tough.
Iceland
is better than people give them credit for.
They look like one of the best teams in a tough group.
Yeah.
So they're ready to go.
9 points. They cleaned straight out.
Absolutely. So really, I think what would be left is the discussion of just the last teams that are going to play tomorrow. Okay, let's get into Group H because they're the one that they were the fun group. Remember, we talked about them being the fun group.
Open
group. Japan and Senegal, I believe, have 4 points.
Yeah.
Colombia has 3 after that huge 3-0 win over Poland. That's to knock out the Poles. So Senegal plays Colombia, winner take all. And if they tie, Colombia is out. Unless
Japan
loses to Poland
Colombia
because
has a better
of
goal differential. Yeah.
Because of goal differential.
There is a chance if Senegal and Colombia tie, they can both get through.
They can both get through,
because it's very possible Poland beats Japan.
Exactly. They're playing for pride. But in the same way that Korea was playing for pride and knocked off one of the big teams, Poland can very well play for pride and beat off one of the worst teams.
Yeah. Lewandowski and those boys, they're not going to go out quietly.
They don't want to just get knocked out with a whimper.
I think
no way in
Japan
hell.
is also overachieving a bit, too. So it's very possible Poland wins that game and Colombia and Senegal get through with a draw. I don't think that's how it'll play out. I think both those teams have to come in with the mentality to win because you do. Especially Colombia, right? You can't take the risk of Japan pulling out a point and that's it, right?
And essentially as it shakes down, and this is one of those funny things too, but depending on where you finish and who finishes with England and Belgium in first and second, you might not want to win this group either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you might want to come in second in this group. Yeah. Or maybe you want to win this group because that puts you in the easier bracket.
So I would want to win this group.
But again,
that group, if I'm Group H,
but if it means you play Belgium, you know what I mean?
Exactly. What if Belgium lose?
You know, because like on the flip side, to play England, I feel you have a better chance if you're Colombia or Senegal or Japan.
I hope Senegal gets through.
At this point, you just got to show up.
You just got, I think you're right. At this point, just show up, play, make it through, and let the chips fall where they may. At the end of the day, you're not going to play an easy team next round. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to play a tough team.
Everything's going to be competitive at this point.
You're playing a tough team. So
I hope Senegal gets through, though. I really want an African nation getting through.
I do too. Yeah.
It just sucks if their heart gets broken the same way that Nigerians got broken.
In this way, we're guaranteed either one African or one Asian team to make it through to the next round. Like that's a guarantee. It's just which one. Or both of them, and Colombia goes home. We've already got a few South American teams.
I'm ready for Colombia to get in, though. I hope they
played fantastic against Poland.
Yeah, they were completely different than they were against Japan. It was two different teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they played like that against Japan, we're not having this discussion.
No, Japan would have been expected.
They're comfortable right now.
Yeah.
But it was two different teams. Falcao looked amazing against Poland.
And that's the part where I kind of feel bad for Japan, because even though they put in 2 great performances, the Poles are embarrassed.
Exactly.
And the Poles are really going to want to come out and play their best game just to go out at least on a winning note.
They're the highest ranked team in this group.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, at least they want to go out on a winning note and feel like, okay, at least we didn't lose to Japan.
Yeah,
You know?
and in a personal sense, Robin Lewandowski doesn't want to leave the tournament with no goals, right? There's players in that team that want to perform too.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I mean, like, for Poland, I mean, Russia's next door. You know,
Yeah,
it's like it's happening so close to home.
Yeah.
You know, you think they would have got a little bit of a home team kind of push, you know, especially on an easier group, and it just didn't happen for them.
Just the age caught up to them. They're one of the oldest teams in the World Cup.
Right. But, you know, I looked at that as a positive in the sense that they'd be the veteran team that doesn't buckle under pressure. You know, that was the feeling I had about Poland going into it. But, you know,
kind of have to call a spade now. Poland underachieves in tournaments, man.
Yeah, they
They
do.
consistently do it. They just cannot perform.
Did they get out of the 2014 World Cup?
They got out of the Euro. They made the quarterfinal in Euro. But before that, it was a while before they got out of a knockout or a group stage. And it's just, they don't perform. It's just how it is.
So I think that the next thing that I want to say is considering the number of upsets, draws that in the past would have been, you know, book it as a win for the big team, be it Switzerland drawing with Brazil or South Korea beating Germany, or, you know, Iceland drawing with Argentina, etc. I'll say at this point, you know, there have been a lot of examples. Is it that some of the weaker countries are finally starting to catch up? I mean, you know, Italy didn't even make it this time. Holland didn't make it. The U.S. didn't make it. Chile didn't make it. You know, are some of the weaker teams starting to catch up to some of the giants? And or is it more of the same? Some teams are going to overachieve, some are going to underachieve, but at the end of the day, we're going to get one of the usual suspects is going to win the World Cup. You know, is that where we're headed?
I still think we're going to see one of the usual suspects win the World Cup. One of the more known teams.
Right.
But it is getting closer. There's more and more upsets every tournament. It seems that's how it's working out. There's more and more surprise teams.
Like, I can't say to you what team the game, like, how their programs are, but I just think the stage of the World Cup, teams come up and they come out to play.
So this is sorry to cut you off. This is where I'm going to shift it and just add this element to it, because I think it's played a very important role. I do believe in World Cups past. I do believe in Euros past. There has been an element of match fixing. You know what I mean? I believe that by introducing the VAR, they have become pretty transparent. I mean, you can see it. It's clear as day. They're calling penalties when in the past the ref would have just said play on. They're overturning goals. You know what I mean? They're overturning non-goals. You know, they're doing all kinds of things that are making the game like, yes, that's the right call. Yes, that's the right call. And it's balanced out a lot of stuff.
It's changed the game completely.
So, I mean, is this really, you know, is this going to be the norm going forward, or is it just because it's the first time they've done it at a World Cup stage that, you know, maybe it's just going to take a little bit of time for all these teams to get used to it, and going forward next Euro, next World Cup, then teams like the dominant teams are going to be dominant again because they're just better. And they're going to adjust.
But that's the thing. The dominant teams will always get back to dominance. For some of these teams, like the Italys, the Polands, it is a reality check of something that's been happening for a while, of just not bringing in a younger generation. That's something Italy refused to do for a while.
Right.
And now they finally paid the consequence. And that's usually how it works, because we do see these upsets in soccer. Usually what it is, those powerhouse teams that do get upset, it's because they're getting a little older, they need to change it up, and they're just stubborn.
They'll hang on to
they're
some
stubborn
guys for
to
a little
do
too
it.
long.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Spain last time.
Yeah.
Where they cost
So I think you'll always see the big big nations
I felt
come
as though
back.
Germany, though, they really changed up a lot of their players this time. You know, like they didn't come like. I mean, yeah, there was a core group of guys that were still there, but there were a ton of guys that were new.
But what do we know about Germany, like Schweinsteiger, like those guys are old.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, some of the guys that were there last time that were part of the core, they're not there, but like many of them still are. And that was sort of my point, is that Germany, I think, made a solid effort to bring in a lot of young and fresh blood,
it definitely.
but they still left off
Who
guys
scored there?
like Sane.
Yeah.
You know what I
Who scored
mean?
the
Who
World
should have
Cup
been
winner?
there? Mario
Götze.
Gomez.
Yeah, like he was. Or
Götze?
Götze.
Yeah.
He was.
Mario Götze.
Yeah. And I agree with you there. They tried to mix the young and the old. They tried this tournament. It didn't work out. I don't think it was because of that. I just think it wasn't their.
It just wasn't their tournament.
Yeah.
It's the curse of the champions.
That shit's
Like,
real,
You know,
man.
that-
He said, no
That's just
bounces.
real.
No bounces, no chance.
Hey, you won last time. It's someone else's turn. I personally, I want either a brand new team to win it or someone that hasn't won in decades.
I'm rooting
you
for
know?
Portugal, but I don't know. Uruguay's tough.
Honestly, man, I'm going with Croatia now. Like,
Croatia's
for who I
my
want
team.
to win,
Yeah.
I've always liked Croatia. They've always been cool since they had David Sukar and all that. They were cool as shit.
Davor Shuker was the man.
Yeah,
I
and even
remember
now
him.
they're just cool.
Oh, he was so
But
sick, man.
I think Croatia's getting to the final of this World Cup. I'm not ready to predict if they're gonna win.
All right.
The Croatia
Well,
Brazil
So you're
final.
changing.
I'm saying they're.
Oh, you're saying
yeah.
Croatia, Brazil?
Yeah.
I think Brazil takes that one,
Croatia,
but
Brazil.
I really, really hope I'm wrong. I just don't want Brazil. I predicted Brazil to finish third, and my final was France versus Argentina. I tweeted that out earlier, and I said, so let's just call it what it is. Everyone's picks, everyone's brackets, they're all destroyed.
Oh, hell
they're all
yeah.
worthless.
Oh, hell yeah.
You
March
know?
Madness 2.0.
Yeah,
Busted.
yeah, exactly.
France is another team that I don't think put their foot down too, and I think they're going to take it up another gear coming into this round.
Well, they have to. I mean,
do
they're
have
facing
to.
Argentina.
They do have to.
They have to.
didn't look that great.
Yeah.
But I think part of that is because they kind of were on cruise control for most of it.
Here's the thing, though, and this is what I look at in that sort of that half of the bracket where you got Uruguay, Portugal, tough matchup. Whoever comes out of that is going to end up playing again one of the favorites in Argentina or France. So by the time whoever comes out of those four teams into the semifinal, you know what I mean, to play the bracket of Mexico, Brazil, and then Belgium,
Or
England,
England, yeah.
or the Japan, Colombia,
That-
Senegal, whoever,
age mess, yeah.
whoever, right? Likely you're going to say Brazil versus one of those teams.
Yeah, that's
You know what I mean? That's the likelihood.
Unless it's Belgium that goes there.
Unless it's Belgium that goes there,
That
in which
bracket,
case it could be Belgium that
murder as
goes
well.
there. So, but I mean, I almost feel like this is why I almost feel like your winner could very well be out of the other side because they have just a much easier route all the way through. Having said that, when you face tough competition, now you make it to the final. Whoever comes out of that other side doesn't look so tough to you now.
See, that's-
whether it's Spain, Belgium, or England, or Sweden, I mean, screw them, man.
You,
At
gotta
that
get
point.
out of you just gotta get out of this bracket. If you could do it, I think you can win.
For
that
this
World
type
Cup
of
final.
tournament, one-man tournament where it's not hockey where you're physically battling each other for a 7-game series, right?
Yeah.
I think playing the tougher opponents and getting through that is more of an advantage than getting it through an easy side.
Yeah, for the guys that get through it.
Yeah.
It's the other one is, but here on the flip side, if you've made it all the way on cruise control, let's just say, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
now you face the tough competition, right? All you need is a couple of bounces in that last game, and suddenly you're world champions.
And confidence is a big thing in this type of tournament. You get that momentum, you're rolling, you're feeling fucking good.
Yeah.
You're just getting through. It's going
You
to
know
be
what? It's
very,
gonna
very
depend.
interesting.
It's one game, right? In one game, anything can happen.
Your one game
It's
elimination.
mental strength too. This mentally strong teams will be able to up their level whenever they need to, right?
Great stuff, guys. Thanks very much for tuning in. We want to thank you again, Grind, for sitting in on this episode. And please do tune in. For our NBA, our NHL, and our PBHL shows, also to be released later on tonight. Tweet at us at report_weekly. We're always listening, and we're always going to get back. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you soon.